There's nobody, absolutely nobody, I'd rather be hosting with today than Israel Gutierrez.
So Mina wasn't available?
See, that's not right. She taunted me throughout the entire show yesterday. That's why we have you here. No taunting allowed. Just like the NFL, you get a 15-yard penalty for that.
Still the second choice, though. Still second choice.
You're on the medal stand. There's nothing wrong with that. Absolutely nothing wrong with that. Oh, man. Welcome to PTI, everyone. Mike and Tony have the day off, so I'm pleased to be joined by my great friend from Around the Horn, highly questionable, the NBA and ESPN, and a well-known shirtless pictorial in Men's Journal magazine, the one and only Israel Gutierrez. There you go.
Never going to live that one down.
Hey, at least he's wearing clothes today. That's good. All right, let's start with the Mets responding to owner Steve Cohen's criticism with a big win. Yesterday morning, Cohen tweeted about his slumping team, quote, "It's hard to understand how professional hitters can be this unproductive." The Mets then went out and snapped their 5-game losing streak by beating the league-best Giants 6-2 in 12 innings. Manager Luis Rojas said afterwards, "The message was sent and we got it." So, Izzy, does Steve Cohen deserve credit for his team's win?
Well, the message was sent, but apparently the wireless wasn't very good in the building because they didn't seem to get it until like the 9th inning when they scored a run. And really didn't have like an explosive inning until the 12th to get this win. Look, I'm not ready to give Steve Cohen credit here because if we start doing that with owners just getting real intrusive and tweeting, then we're going to have every single owner of every slumping team out there just going crazy on the Twitter machine and saying, hey, that helped my team. Look, I do think that if you look at where the Mets are in the standings, they do need a bit of a boost, right? They're 4.5 back in their division, and maybe something could be the reason that they look at as to why they got a boost here, going forward. But man, this can't possibly be it because he's been trying different things in the previous weeks. But this one landed, and this is the reason this offense is woken up. If I'm Steve Cohen, I'm looking at Rojas here and saying, hey, why do we need all these coaches if my tweet's the one that's supposed to wake up the offense?
Yeah, you know what? Listen, I covered the Mets for 2 years, and as you know, the baseball season, it drags on forever. So in August, if I have something easy to write about, like an owner tweeting about the team, I'm saying thank you, Steve Cohen, for doing it. It's an easy day at the office. But Kevin Pillar, who hit the big 3-run home run in the 12th, he said it best. Yeah, it was a topic of discussion among the players. And you know what the players were probably saying privately? What is our owner doing? He's acting like a fanboy calling a radio show saying, what are they doing? They need to hit better. Everyone knows that. And to your point, all right, so he tweets this out. So when did it inspire the team exactly? The 6th inning, that's when they had their second hit. The 9th inning is when they scored their first run. They blow a save in the 11th, and then in the 12th inning, they finally have a breakthrough against a terrific team. The Mets had been very good all season long up until the last month. The law of averages are they're a good team. They're going to snap out of it. Michael Conforto, who has struggled this year, he had a couple of big hits. Izzy, it had nothing to do with the tweet. It was just a matter of time before the Mets finally snapped out of it.
Yeah, Frank, I mean, which owner in history, is it Jerry Jones? Which one do we applaud for being this guy, right? For doing everything publicly. If you want to say these things privately, if they take you seriously, say it privately, but don't tell me a tweet worked.
Yeah, well, he should do this. He should tweet before the Dodgers series because they're going to face Walker Buehler, Max Scherzer, and David Price. Good luck with that one.
Right. For every game.
Exactly.
Well, we had 2 pitchers get ejected in baseball last night. Umpires gave Diamondbacks reliever Caleb Smith the boot and confiscated his glove after finding a couple of suspicious spots that Smith says were dirt. And White Sox starter Lance Lynn got tossed after tossing his belt at an umpire who wanted to check it for foreign substances. Frank, did both men deserve their ejections?
You know what? I think they did. And I like Lynn because he's an emotional guy. He was upset that he didn't get to start the All-Star game. I think they picked Shohei Ohtani, which was a pretty good choice. Lance Lynn did get to start the Field of Dreams game last week. It's his belt. I get it. He's upset, but you're going to get tossed for that. As for Caleb Smith, here's a guy that pitched 2 1/3 innings. He only gave up 1 run. He had a terrific outing. But guess what? When they spot something on your glove, you're going to get ejected. And I actually think this is working for Major League Baseball. There's only been 1 guy suspended. And they're checking all the time. So it's working. They see it on there. They send it to New York. And if the league office says, yes, there's a foreign substance, that's a 10-game suspension. I don't have a problem with it.
Well, was it working for Caleb Smith? Because he got checked in the 6th and was cleared. And then in the 8th, gives up a home run. Oh, all of a sudden has a sticky substance. So it didn't really work for him there, did it? I do think it's interesting, and a lot of people don't know that, Frank, that you do get a 10-game suspension, or a 10-game, this player will be gone for 10 games, and you cannot replace him on the roster. So if this was a team outside of, the Diamondbacks, maybe somebody in contention, it would be a bigger deal here. The Lynn one was interesting because, this is where you start getting into the umpire's feelings and whatnot. He was late to check for him, so Lynn left his hat and his glove and didn't get the belt, and he just tossed the belt dismissively at the umpire. And you're going to get in trouble for that. But it just makes me wonder if all of this is really worth it, right? You're going to have him ejected. You're going to have Caleb Smith have to go through this whole interrogation and figure out, or not interrogation, investigation, to figure out if it was sticky substance on his gloves. And is this really making baseball better? I saw The Ringer did something about a month into this whole project and said, it was sort of indecipherable whether offenses had gotten better. Spin rate was down, but were offenses better?
That was the goal, though.
If you're not going to make the game a lot more fun, what's the point?
Yeah, that was the goal, to get the spin rate down, get offense up a little bit. My thing, what's interesting about it, Phil Cuzzy's the umpire that ejected him. There's been one player suspended 10 games. Hector Santiago of the Mariners, the umpire that threw him out, that happened to be Phil Cuzzy. But remember this, too, and we're going through this with the NFL, with the taunting penalty. It's a point of emphasis. It's something that they want the players to know about, so it will deter them from doing it. I think this is the same thing that's happening with baseball, with putting foreign substance on the glove. I actually think it's working, Izzy. I really do. All right, let's move on to the NBA, where Kevin Durant and Draymond Green are on the same page nearly 3 years after they clearly weren't. You may remember that the then Warrior teammates argued on the court, then in the locker room after an overtime loss to the Clippers in November of 2018. Well, on Green's new series, Chips, both players blame, get this, Coach Steve Kerr and GM Bob Myers for mishandling the situation by suspending Draymond for 1 game instead of letting the players work it out. Do you agree, Izzy?
Absolutely not. I can't stop laughing at the name of his podcast, by the way. California Highway Patrol, maybe an old TV show. Anybody remember that? Maybe I'm just old. So look, this one's confusing to me, Frank, and I'm not sure if it is to you here. I've been hearing people talk about this all day long, and I just wonder, it just reminds me of, 2 young adults whose lives have gone awry, and they just blame their parents for everything, for making mistakes that they didn't even know they made, because what is the playbook for that when 2 of your stars are just going at each other, kind of lose their minds on the court, and then, you pick one, you suspend the guy, Draymond Green, and you just hope that they fix that amongst themselves. But to take the blame away from yourself, Draymond Green, is kind of confusing here, because at the time, it seemed like everybody was blaming him. And it is interesting, this whole big picture of what Draymond's doing. It's sort of like he's living in his legacy these days. You would think he's retired. He's over here on TNT doing studio shows. He's doing all these, starting a podcast, having this retrospective. It seems like he's rewriting his own history at the time, or right now, because I think we all remember how it looked.
Yep, you're right. And let's also remember this. They just spent a month together with the national team in both Las Vegas and Japan. So they must have talked about this a lot. And I get it. Draymond Green has taken a lot of heat for Kevin Durant leaving, which I think is unfair. That was Kevin Durant's choice. Kevin Durant has taken criticism for leaving. But guess what? That is his choice. But let's go back. This happened on November 12th of 2018. You and I were living in the NBA. On November 11th, a lot of people thought Kevin Durant was going to be leaving, and that he was going to team up with Kyrie Irving and maybe go to New York. At the time, it was the Knicks. That's what happened. And also, this happened so early in the season that this didn't change anything. Kevin Durant was going to leave. He ended up leaving. And Izzy, here's the other part, too. Kevin Durant mentioned, look at the Chicago Bulls, the way they handled it with Scottie Pippen, and they went right up to him as a team. That was a playoff game. This is a November game at the beginning of a season when you guys are just coming off of 2 championships. Was it really the responsibility of Steph Curry? Was it the responsibility of Steve Kerr? And by the way, Bob Myers did handle it. That's his job to handle it.
And I'd like to hear Steph Curry's view on this, because if we're talking about Jordan and Pippen, Draymond is not one of those 2 in this equation. And it's almost as if Draymond doesn't think he's going back to Golden State to face Steve Kerr, to face Bob Myers and his other teammates for, discussing this and bringing up old stuff and now having to do it all over again. I don't know if that relationship is very healthy right now.
I don't understand. So they're upset that the team didn't step in, the actual players, as if like Andre Iguodala and Steph Curry and Klay Thompson are thinking, guys, it's November. We just won won 2 titles. What are you guys like fighting for? By the way, if Kevin Durant is healthy, they would have won a championship. So Steve Kerr doesn't get involved because it's the job of the general manager. He did step in, and then they're upset with him for stepping in. All these years later, it still doesn't make any sense.
Call it the Spilled Milk Podcast.
There you go. All right, let's take a break. But coming up, 2 former Alabama quarterbacks face each other in the preseason tonight. Time for toss-up. This is the game where we're given 2 choices, and of course, I picked the right one. What do we got first?
Toss-up. Which former Alabama quarterback are you more intrigued by tonight? Mac Jones or Jalen Hurts?
Believe it or not, Mac Jones and Jalen Hurts were both teammates for a minute there at Alabama. Of course, Jalen Hurts finished up at Oklahoma. Now he's on Philadelphia. New head coach Nick Sirianni. I'm going to go with Jalen Hurts for this reason. In his second year, a lot of people think he's going to make that big jump, kind of like what Lamar Jackson made, what Josh Allen made. And he's been a guy, all we've been hearing from his teammates, he's going around quizzing everyone while they're in the hot tub, or when they're getting lunch, about plays and things like that. This is a big moment for him because during the offseason, there was a lot of talk that they were going to go out and try to sign a veteran quarterback or trade for one, including Deshaun Watson. So I think for Jalen Hurts, he has a lot to prove tonight.
I would pump those brakes a little bit. Like, don't bring up Lamar Jackson and Josh Allen just yet. We need to see the leap first before we can put them in that category. The thing about Jalen Hurts is interesting. Yeah, you do want to see if he's going to make that leap, right? Probably going to have the entire regular season to see it. It's not like there's a quarterback competition there. His biggest issue is probably throwing in the pocket, being comfortable in there. And if you see that during this game, great. But if you don't, you're probably going to see it again in the regular season. With Mac Jones, on the other hand, this is a real quarterback competition that's going on in New England. And it seems like, depending on when you check in, one is ahead of the other. It seems like right now Cam is ahead after a couple of practices against the Eagles and going into this game. It seemed like, more maturity and more sort of expertise there at the goal line, and frankly, more options because he's a bigger body. But Mac Jones has looked good, and if he wins this, even if he doesn't win it right off the bat, everything you're hearing is he might take this thing within the first month, the Patriots starting quarterback gig, and that would be interesting with Belichick's kind of real successor to Tom Brady.
I think Cam Newton is starting. Who do you think starts the season as the Patriots quarterback?
I think Cam starts game 1, but I don't know about game 3 or 4.
Yeah. By the way, Jalen Hurts last year, 4 starts, was 1-3. He only completed 52% of his passes. All right, what do we got next?
Toss up. What was more impressive last night? Shohei's 40th home run or his 8 innings on the mound?
Well, he is the best Shohei in baseball. Get it, Izzy? And what he did last night is unbelievable. To hit your 40th home run. But he went 8 innings. That's a career high for him. And after hitting the home run, that's when he finished off the 8th inning, and his final pitch of the night was 98 miles per hour, gave him his 8th strikeout. And how about this for Shohei Ohtani, who is obviously going to be the MVP in baseball in the American League. Here's a guy that is averaging 10.8 strikeouts per 9 innings. That's the best in Angels history. You know who used to pitch for the Angels? Nolan Ryan. So on a night where they're talking about him and Babe Ruth, you could also put him and Nolan Ryan in the same class. That's pretty good company.
How many times you practiced that Shohei joke, Frank? Don't know if it landed that great. Look, and Jeff Passan will tell you, by the way, stop comparing him to Babe Ruth because not even Babe Ruth has done this. Like, there's nobody that has done what he is doing. But if you ask me for which one's more impressive, I'm going to take the home run, and here's why. He had a 1-run lead after pitching those 8 innings. And he said to himself, you know what's going to be the best thing for me here? Little insurance run. And he just got it himself. I mean, you think about all the things that he has done, not only just this year, but you talk about the All-Star game, you talk about whatever appearances he's had. He looks now like he's getting stronger as the season goes along with, 6 and 6.5 weeks left. It's a shame we're not going to see him in the postseason, but man, if he could continue this in this season, you could just imagine that if, he continues to grow into his body, and continues to just develop, like he's going to be able to do this all season long without any issue. And like I said, there is no comp for this guy.
Yeah, this was a great night for baseball in Detroit because the fans had filled the place up. They want to see Shohei Ohtani pitch, but also Miguel Cabrera was going for home run number 500. They got to face each other a bunch of times. Here's a couple of interesting things. That's only his 3rd home run in the month of August, but 40 home runs is the most by any left-hander in Angels history. Remember, Reggie Jackson used to play for the Angels. Pretty cool. All right, that's it. Good effort, Izzy. Let's take one last break, but still to come, Aaron Rodgers is clear on what he doesn't want this season to be.
And Bears fans get some good news about Justin Fields.
So now, do you understand the show? Hey, get it? Show? You understand the show?
I mean,
come on, man.
become a regular part of the baseball season. And Lance Lynn needs to understand that this is something that is going to happen for the rest of the season. The umpire was like 4 steps away and he was complaining about how he wasn't there on time. Like, that's kind of ridiculous.
Justin?
Yeah, it's a partial buy for me. I understand Lance is a front runner for Cy Young, and the worst thing you can do to an innocent person is accuse him. But as June just said, the pitchers brought this on themselves, and no one wants to join Hector Santiago as the only other pitcher who's been suspended for this stuff. And I think every pitcher sees that whenever an umpire.
So that was a
walks
partial buy? I want to make sure I get the wording right here. That was a partial buy?
It was a partial buy.
That is a total and mute there for Mr. Tinsley. Shelburne.
Look, this reminded me of like when you see a cop and you know you're speeding, and then if you hit the brakes and they see your brake lights, like they know you slowed down. I mean, he literally sped up to run in the dugout. I mean, it was kind of obvious. This is exactly how people behave after a little while of them enforcing the rule. There's going to be some people who test the boundaries and see if they're still going to enforce it as strictly. I'm not surprised at all that this would come
And Bob
up.
Ryan.
I'm selling everything. I'm selling it from the pitcher's viewpoint that they have to know it's coming. So yeah, it's just the world they've been living in. They have to be ready for it. I'm selling it from the umpire's viewpoint. There's a difference between having a belt thrown at you and a belt tossed to you. And how do we know which one that was?
Buy or sell too.
It wasn't an argument. It was the way that everybody, Steve Kerr, act like it didn't happen. Bob Myers and tried to just discipline you and think that would put the mask over everything. And I told them right then and there, I said, the only person that can make this right is me and Kay. And there's nothing that y'all can do, and y'all are going to this up. And in my opinion, they it up. I think so too.
That's the Bleacher Report's new series, episode 1, Chips. For Draymond Green and Kevin Durant to think their inability to get along while teammates and the reason the Warriors broke up, that the blame lies with Kerr and Myers. Do you believe there's truth in that, Ramona?
No, Kevin Durant was leaving. I mean, the whole argument started because people on the Warriors kind of have sense that he was leaving the whole time. Draymond even says to him earlier in that podcast, Kevin, my feeling was you were done after the first 2 championships and you only came back because we had a chance to three-peat. And Kevin goes, yeah, you're right. I mean, like that was the whole context of the argument. So to put this on Kerr and Myers 3 years later, it feels like revisionist history. I don't know why they're doing it. And I don't know why they took the gratuitous shot at them, because Steve Kerr's still his coach. Bob Myers is still the GM. Like, they understand he's a media entity, but he was already going to be a great media entity. You don't need to sell anything here.
Yeah, 2 things. Draymond's going to have a long career in media after his career in basketball is over. And 2, I'm fascinated by anything KD Warriors era. Even when I'm confused about what the hell just happened, like with this interview, I don't even know who to blame at this point. But there's something funny about all this. You notice how Steph and Klay never talk about this situation? It's always Draymond and KD talking about it.
June?
I'm just confused as to what actually happened, because I mean, like, the revisionist history aspect of this is just not what happened. They're trying to rewrite what happened. And I think an interesting part about all of this is that it's KD and Draymond talking to the public directly, not through some sort of third-party media entity. And I think this is going to be part of the future where we have athletes talking directly to fans through their own media companies. And, it's going to be on us as ESPN and other media outlets to call this stuff out when there is revisionist history going on.
Well, this is a series
trying to change the
for
narrative.
Bleacher Report. But my question is, no one sees that Kerr and Myers could have done more to try to keep them together? Is that not part of this conversation, Bob Ryan?
Well, not from what we gather now. No, there never was a point they had a chance to do that if Durant was going to leave. This is more drama from Draymond. He's always going to be in the news. And Justin's right. He's the next Charles Barkley in the waiting to be a commentator. And as far as the other guy's concerned, he's never happy. Get over it. Just try and smile once in a while.
They were smiling during this and they laughed.
No, Kevin Durant, I am so tired of his